Hey, you're listening to Profoundish. This episode is another installment in our Tiny Tuber series, a series where two very small YouTubers of over 10 years provide insight and advice for creating stuff. And this time around, we're talking about the A word, analytics. Stick around as Weston, Hasty, and I talk about our relationship to analytics and how it's changed over the years, as well as some personal discoveries that we've made for our own channels based on analytics. Okay, enough rambling. Let's get into the good stuff. This is Profoundish. Let's sing our intro song leading into the podcast. We rehearsed this. You ready?
No.
And a 1, and a 2, and a 3. Yeah!
You're listening
we're
to
here.
Profoundish.
It's Profoundish.
Ka-chow.
Nice. Oh, you were a little too pitchy, a little too sharp. Could you try it again?
I don't know how to do that with my voice. How do I flatten my voice? Ka-chow.
How do I flatten? Do I just need to lay a dumbbell on my neck or something? What do I need to do here?
All I know, you said pitchy. I can go up a pitch or down a pitch. I don't know how to sharp or flat. I can get higher or I can get lower. I can go lower. I can get higher.
I don't know if we've talked about this on the show, but Weston, who is musical, some may not know if you just know him online, but he is. He has a trombone. I still want to get him on the show with that trombone. By the show, I mean the Jam and Chat, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Check it out. But anyway, one time Weston and I were in a musical together in high school, and he was part of like the ensemble choir for like the big musical numbers, which meant he had to sing. And I would hear him sing. This is my first exposure ever to hearing you sing. And I've known you for years, but I've never heard you in... At least I've heard you and I always like sing goofy songs together, but that's not singing, right? We're just kind of being goofy.
Yeah.
And hearing you actually sing with everybody else, I'm thinking, he's actually kind of good. And you kept singing in thirds. So basically, if you don't know what a third is, anyone listening, it's essentially a harmony in a major key. And so he was harmonizing with everybody. I'm thinking, I remember asking you, like we were in the band room, asking you if you were like told to do that or something. I think I remember, and you're like, "No, I'm just singing what everybody else is singing."
Yeah, no, I was unaware that was happening. I just try to like match what I think in my brain, what I'm hearing, and apparently that results in like a perfect harmony every time. I don't know.
It's just so funny to me because like in your head, really, this is the pitch. This is it.
Yeah. To me, it's spot on. Like, it's the same thing.
This is the same thing, but no, it's actually just the pretty third. Man.
I'm a pretty third.
It's a pretty third. A third is always a safe route. You can do a fourth, but that can get kind of weird depending on the rest of the chordal structure. But that's not what we're here to talk about today.
Oh, okay.
Today, we got to get right into the facts, right into the hard stuff, because this may be an episode that just some people who really want some tips from two experts.
Hey, you want the facts?
Flat out
Hippos are related to whales.
Is that true?
Yeah, more closely than pigs or elephants.
Really?
Yeah. That's your facts.
Here's another fact. This is the fact episode.
This is the fact episode. We're just going to start spitting completely unrelated facts.
This is when, throwback to another episode, this is when I wish I had my unstoppable bathroom reader. Because it's got all of those little random facts in it, and you can kind of flip through it.
That would be perfect.
But unfortunately, no. Oh, here's a trivia question, just for fun. Then we'll get into it. Well, first of all, I don't know, as of the recording of this, have you listened to the latest episode of the Two Piece Podcast yet?
I have.
Okay. Well, never mind.
Go ahead. Tell me that same trivia question you used on the show, and I'm going to sound like a genius.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Somebody may still not know this if they haven't listened to the Two Piece Podcast, by the way. Listen to the Two Piece Podcast, available everywhere. Man, I'm just plugging all my stuff today.
That's fine.
Anyway, what is the most expensive liquid on Earth?
That one, I was listening to the show and I was really trying to rack my brain, like, what would it be? And I'm like, I know it's not, you would think like liquid gold or platinum or something. I'm like, I know it's not that. I think it's some animal thing. And then you're like, it's from an animal. I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track. But I was thinking it was, for some reason, I thought it was like, I don't know, like whale urine or some nonsense. Because there's a really expensive marine animal something that gets put in perfume and it's like stupid expensive. That's what I was thinking. But then you were like, it's scorpion venom. And I'm like, really? Most expensive?
Yeah. And I looked that up. By the way, your microphone for me glitched out for a second, so I heard, really?
Yeah,
So-
probably what I try to say, scorpion venom.
But yeah, it's like $38 million per gallon.
Which a gallon of scorpion venom is a tremendous amount of scorpion venom.
It's a lot of venom.
Because they don't release very much, you know.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, they're a very small creature, very small amount of a gallon is already an absurd amount of venom to have on you.
I can't even finish a gallon of milk, like
before it expires.
let alone venom.
Yeah,
I mean, well, this period. I mean, then again, these days I don't drink milk, but I got a half gallon of like almond milk just so I could throw it in like smoothies and stuff.
Yeah,
and the nice thing about that was that like it lasts like way longer than like a dairy product does, like milk.
And it's delicious.
Oh, I love almond milk, man. It's so good. I didn't know you did nut milk.
I don't really drink milk anymore either, but I've had almond milk and I love almond milk. It's delicious. Yeah.
That's kind of my go-to if it's like if there's something that I'm cooking that requires milk or something, like I'll just use that as a substitute. And it usually does the job. Speaking of
Downside
jobs,
is typically more expensive, but
it is more expensive, but for me, I like it better. I try to, my relationship with cheese. I try to avoid the dairy. So, but
so you don't
cheese
relapse.
comes crawling back. That cheese is calling my name. It's 2 a.m. There's just a block of cheese in my fridge. Alex,
eat me in one sitting.
I'm like, what? I mean, if you insist. Oh, I can't. I just can't. Yes, you can.
I'm in love, and her name is Bree.
I'm in love, and his name is Colby. Colby Jack.
Oh, that's like the cool bad boy.
Yeah, Colby Jack.
Colby Jack. He's got a trench coat and sunglasses for sure, like old school noir detective.
So, if Colby Jack, let's say Colby Jack is friends with Pepper Jack, what kind of character is Pepper Jack?
Pepper Jack's like the kind of chubby partner who's like trying to give like advice to Colby Jack to like not get himself killed in the line doing detective stuff. Like, you're getting in too deep, Jack. You're going to upset the wrong people, Jack. And Colby's like, nah, I know what I'm doing. I'm cool.
Right, but Pepper always gets roped in. He still gets roped into all the shenanigans. He might be more the straight man, but he still gets thrown into the mess.
The sad thing
You know
is,
what I mean?
too, is that he's like the older detective close to retirement, and he will end up dead halfway through the movie.
Aw. That's so sad.
Because he's got to he gives all this advice or whatever to Colby, right? And then when Pepper dies, or possibly even murdered by the whoever the perp is, that Colby's on the tail, right? All of a sudden, Colby's got to like sort of take all this advice that he used to take for granted while Pepper was around, but now he's not there to give it to him, and he's got to like remember.
Yeah, and there's that scene where you just see Colby, and he's racking his brain about what he needs to do next, and then there's that flashback. It's a classic flashback.
Yeah,
where Pepper Jack is talking to him and whatever the advice is, and then he uses that advice to get the perpetrator and save the day.
We're onto something here. This sounds amazing. And I think going back to like Brie, like for cheese, that could be the name of like the femme fatale, right? Like the lady that Colby's into, but she turns out to be like devious.
Well, oh man, what would our cheese like detective? I don't even know. Like, what would our movie? Like, what would it be called?
It's noir. It's black and white. And back
noir.
then they were kind of pretentious. So I'm imagining a French title, and we can just call it Fromage.
All right. So everybody, make sure to go support us on Patreon. We need to meet this goal to
We
make
need to kickstart this movie.
Yeah. Let's get a Kickstarter going. Oh my gosh. Weston.
Yeah.
I was trying to make a point earlier, and then we started talking about cheese, and that's partially my fault. Actually, it's completely my fault. I thought it'd be fun to do another Tiny Tuber episode today.
Yeah.
There seemed to be a little bit of feedback, but a little bit of engagement with that last episode. So we thought maybe there's some folks out there who, once again, you and I, there's no one who knows more about YouTube than us. We are the experts.
Clearly, obviously.
I mean, look at us. We're household names.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, come on. We've got the wire straight to the top when it comes to YouTube.
That's right. We know Mr. YouTube himself. We
I
met
can't
him.
remember
Remember at that after party? We met him.
Oh yeah, we were all slosh. He gave us the keys to the algorithm.
The keys to the algorithm.
Because I don't remember the name of the new CEO. It used to be Susan. Shoot, Susan. Whatever her name is, Susan. She's like, she's done now.
Oh yeah,
she's stepped down. It's some other guy.
When did that happen?
Maybe a month ago or something like that. I'm a little out of touch with time. Maybe it was longer.
Because I had no idea that even happened. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Well, we used to have the inside scoop, and I'm just kidding. But the whole point of this, just in case you missed our first episode, Tiny Tuber episode, it's basically we've been playing the game for a long time. We've seen a lot of things come, a lot of things go. The whole YouTube landscape has transformed multiple times in our 10-plus years of creating on it, I'd say. And I thought today it might be fun for us to talk about a very, depending on how you want to create your content, this is a very important aspect, a very prominent aspect of making things on YouTube, which is the data, the numbers, the analytics, as it were. And I don't know, I just thought we could kind of talk about that, maybe talk about how that's changed, because when you and I started back in 2012 range, right, really kind of seriously creating content, checking analytics and looking at the data, for people who watch and where they watch is completely different, and it was a lot less robust than it is now.
It was a lot simpler. Heck, it's hard to even imagine now because it's changed so much. It's hard to even imagine what the old creator studio used to look like, but it was definitely a bigger focus on, just views, likes, dislikes, the basics.
Yeah. And then it was because once again, likes and dislikes, that's a great place to start. Like likes and dislikes, you could actually see the amount of dislikes that you had. And that is no more. I mean, that changed a while ago now.
Well, and you still can. You have to dig a little bit for. If you go to your content tab in the Creator Studio, where you can see your list of videos, there's like a bar where you can see how many likes and dislikes it has. It doesn't tell you the number. You just see the bar. And if you hover over it, it then tells you the number. But
I never look at that. Yeah, because you just see the percentages or whatever. Publicly, you can't now, right? I can't remember. I hardly ever dislike anything, so I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember the last time I actually put a dislike on a video. I'm either completely apathetic to what I'm seeing, or it's something I've enjoyed and I want to see more of it, and then I hit like, and that tells the algorithm, oh, he likes this, let's show him more. But publicly, dislikes are not visible, just likes, and you don't even have the bar anymore. You used to have the lightsaber, right? Like, is it a green lightsaber or a red lightsaber? If it's a really bad video and everyone hates it, you've got the red lightsaber with the green hilt, because it's like all red bar and a tiny bit of green, or or vice versa. No more.
Yeah, it's a lot of things have changed. Like you said, you were kind of right, nailing it on the head there. It was really just likes, dislikes, and views, and subscribers, and that's basically it. And then I don't know, I mean, now, if we just shoot forward to the future, or to the present day, I mean, it's crazy how to the future you can see so in depth. You can see when people are watching, what times they are, what days they are, the most. You can see what other things they're watching. It's and that's just the beginning of it all. It has grown so much as more and more people have began looking at YouTube as a way to really grow an audience. And that's what I kind of want to talk about for a second too at the beginning there was, this kind of stuff is really for someone, I would say, specifically who's really wanting to grow that audience, because YouTube doesn't have to be that for you. You could very well, right, just want to post a video of I don't know, a stapler falling off a table just for fun. And if that's the case,
be your outlet, yeah.
Right. Now, so obviously this information may not be useful for everybody who makes YouTube videos, but I'd say for the vast majority, it probably is. And that's why it's so robust now. Because obviously Google realizes that there's a lot of people on here wanting to really make things work. And I think one of the big questions, you and I have talked about this before, and I want to hear your take kind of here on the show, is, sorry, I had to clear my throat, I'm getting emotional.
Get it out. Get it all out right now.
As soon as I got emotional, I kind of forgot. So I guess we're...
You wanted my take on something.
I did want your take on something. I guess really like... What do you think about how robust it is, and do you think it's a little too easy to maybe get too caught up in it? Do you think that like it's just really kind of like for like a new YouTuber or even like a seasoned one? Do you think too much is ever too much, and it gets to a point to where maybe some of it wouldn't be as helpful? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, is too much too much? Or do you think continuing to expand upon this data and just getting more and more specific, like what's your take on that?
I think like it depends. So it depends on if you're a creator, if you're trying to like create stuff and make something out of it. It just depends on who you are as a creator and what content you make and what you need that information for, which sounds like the cop-out where it's like, well, it depends. I think for a lot of people, it could be too easy to get caught up in over-analyzing as opposed to working on the stuff that you're going to post altogether. So if you're the type of person that procrastinates your work, or you don't upload very frequently, or maybe not consistently, or if you've got other problems in the content creation side of it, in the making stuff side of it, you need to not worry about the numbers, because they're never going to make that video for you. Staring at the numbers all day will never make you a video. That's just, you've got something to stare at. But if you get down like what you're making, like you're like, okay, I know how to make stuff. I know how to make like how to like my process. I know my process for making stuff, but I need some insights into how well it's doing, why it's doing well, why it's not doing well, so that the next thing I make, I can work towards either some kind of goal or make some kind of change. So it does depend a little bit on what you're looking at the numbers for. I do think you can get a little lost in the sauce with there being too much info now. If you go into your analytics, there are many tabs. There are ways to like get, I don't even remember what it's called. There's another page you can open up. You can have different graphs. You can compare between different videos. You can look at your top ones. Yeah. You can sort. There's so much more than there used to be now that it would take a little bit of time to sort of sit down on the page and learn where everything is and what it has to offer you. And I think it's all very valuable information depending on what you need. If that makes sense.
That's
like
true.
What you're looking for.
If we can dig into that a little bit, maybe depending on the creator that you are, like you said, because I know that does sound like a cop-out, but it's true. I think one thing to keep in mind when it comes to different kinds of creators is frequency of uploads. So, I think you'll be looking at your analytics differently if you post once a month, or you're that guy who posts once every few months, as opposed to, and like you get like, a huge splash every month or two or whatever. Versus the person who is posting daily. I think you can really look at them differently just from frequency, like alone, like what you can pull from it, because I think there's pros and cons to both approaches, that I will say, I think a huge pro for the more frequent posting is you just get more. I mean, it's been shown that the more you upload content on a frequent schedule on YouTube, like it does reward that.
Depending on your niche a little bit.
But because once again, it goes back to that though, yeah.
Because like I do gaming on my side, and in the gaming sphere, posting frequently and consistently is vital. But if you do other type stuff, like maybe you do like travel vlogs, for example, or maybe like you do the music side of things. So if you posted like a short musical nothing, something that wasn't like super like dense in terms of content, and just every day, I don't know if that would reward you or not. I mean, this is not including shorts. If it was just videos,
I was going to say, yeah.
Shorts are a different algorithm and a different beast, but some forms of content do cater more to give it more time and space out your releases so that people aren't being inundated with too much of the same thing. Gaming's a little bit different, and there's stuff in between as well. But the closer you can get to daily videos, the better. Typically, I agree with you.
Like overall, yeah.
But I think a lot of people, if that's unattainable or unreasonable, you're not really going to be too hurt for not being able to do that. Like I said, if you're doing like travel vlogs that involve you traveling, like having a video of you in a new country every day is insane. So
what a life.
Right? That would be amazing. But if you're doing something like that weekly or bi-weekly, once a month, if you're doing once a month and you're small, it's going to be really hard to break out because you're just not creating enough stuff for people to discover you by, no matter how good the video is. Once you get big, people can upload very infrequently because no matter what they upload, it's going to get God knows how many millions of views. Like if you're some 30 million subscriber YouTuber or something like that, you're going to release a video, it's going to get like 5 million views or whatever. It's going to make you all the money that you need to live for a month or whatever.
Sure.
That's a different story. When you're small and you're trying to get discovered, you need more stuff out there, and the algorithm loves that.
Right. That's true too, because it's all relative. You can see the graphs, right? You can see if you get a spike in views or retention or whatever for like a particular video. But if you are a very small YouTuber, like 100 subs or less or whatever the number may be, but it's small, you might see like a peak for that video you just made, and say you're doing once a month, right? Yeah. And that may be like, oh, that's awesome, that's great, but that could just be 21 views. That doesn't necessarily mean whatever you just did there is the thing that worked. Maybe it is, but that's the time that Weston and I have both, I can speak on your behalf too, like that's the time to try things and really see what sticks. And it may be good to follow that, but honestly, at the end of the day, it is, I mean, it's 20 people, and who,
I do want to say too, if you are someone who posts less frequent videos, like once a week or a month or whatever, if it's not frequent, I do think talking about the analytics, taking the time to learn what you have available to you and really studying those will pay off in spades, because you are releasing fewer videos to be discovered by. So if you can see what's working and capitalize on that, double down on that, you can start to get the ball rolling and see growth that way, as opposed to just every single video is just a shotgun approach, like who knows what you're going to make. It's going to be really hard if you have, say, 10 videos in the span of 5 months, and every single video is radically unrelated to the other, like just a different kind of video. It's going to be really hard to look at all the stats of those videos and see if there's any trend at all. You're going to not know who your audience is. You're not going to know what they're into. You're not going to know if people are discovering your content and leaving because they can't find more content like that on your channel, or if they're staying because they expect you to make more of a certain thing. It's going to be really hard to figure out what you should do next if you don't take the time to study that.
That's true. I mean, that is a good side of it too. Like, I did say small numbers, but I mean, every view does count, especially at that beginning part. To kind of learning and all that stuff.
But also, like, we haven't touched on this, the shift to watch time, which I say shift. This has been the story for years now, but when they moved away from views, you said every view counts. It's like, well, actually these days, if you get like 5, like if you've got a 10-minute video, if you've got 5 views, and on average they watch 8 minutes of that video, that is significantly more valuable to YouTube and its algorithm than if you got 500 views, but on average you got 15 seconds of watch time. People are clicking and leaving. That will crush your algorithm.
Right. And honestly, in the scheme of it all, you'll hear a lot of YouTubers complain about the YouTube algorithm and how it does this and that, but that's something that I think was a really welcome change, because at least the way I see it, for the most part, it makes sense, right? When retention is high, that clearly means people are really sticking around, you know. So YouTube's not going to reward the super clickbaity and just, I mean, don't get me wrong, clickbait videos are still huge, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, you know, it's going to really reward like quality content more often than it did than it would have before. Because people are sticking on it and watching. It makes sense. I think that's a welcome change overall.
I think it's a welcome change. It definitely hit a bunch of different niches very differently than others. When the shift went over, gaming was very, like, people obsessively watch gaming and will watch long spouts of it at a time, and the videos themselves could be longer. So if you're making like really good finance videos, maybe they're 5 to 10 minutes long and people are watching most of the video, great. But a lot of gaming content back in the day is like 30 minutes, an hour, etc. And if people are watching most of that, everyone, if you've been around YouTube long enough, you remember when the gaming exploded on YouTube because it just broke the algorithm. Because algorithm's like, wow, people are watching on average 50 minutes of gaming content, but only 2 minutes of finance. So I guess we're going to crush finance and animation and all the other stuff or whatever. So there was a very wild time. It's mostly equaled out now if you're someone who's concerned about competing with opposing genres of content. It's mostly well known now to the algorithm, like if someone's watching one genre or another, that those genres have different average stats. So what's kind of nice is because it's been so many years now on YouTube, the platform's kind of like figured that out a little bit.
Right. That's true. Always learning though. It's always changing, but that is a solid point. I was going to bring up too, while we're in our first little segment here.
Yeah.
It's actually funny because I'm looking at my personal analytics here, and I was going to bring up a fairly new tab that people may want to know a little bit more about, which is the research tab. But
yeah,
I don't see it anymore.
Oh, I'm looking right at it.
Do you have yours pulled up? Why don't I have mine pulled up?
Are you?
Mine's
yeah,
not
you
there.
just go to analytics and then research.
It's like, Alex, are you a fraud? Are you not an expert?
No, I just mean like it's not hidden anywhere else. Like that's what I meant by that. It's not in a different place.
No, I know.
Okay.
I swear to God, I don't have it.
Weird.
That is weird. Well, I know what it is, so we can still talk about it, and I'll figure this out later. Maybe I'm being like, am I being banned? I don't know what's going on here.
Well, I don't know if the research tab is still technically under beta, so it might, like, random people might be gaining access or losing access to it now. I don't know if it's still a beta feature. I never keep up anymore. Sometimes I get access to beta stuff, sometimes I don't, but I don't keep up with whether or not something's in beta or, oh, it's a new feature. I kind of forget.
Right. So this, either way, this research tab, you may or may not have seen it pop up, like you just said. And this is a really interesting development, and it really gets kind of specific. So, of course, your whole, something we talked about last time on Tiny Tubers was finding your niche, right? And this, honestly, I think potentially could be a really great tool for that, because what you can basically do is see kind of, assuming you have enough people who kind of engage with your content, you can see what people are, other things they're searching for. You can divide that out by location, like not by specific location, but by country. And then you can also, should be a section called, I don't look at that in front of me, I don't see it, but I think it's content gap. And the content gap is an interesting concept, which is basically things that people are searching, but there's not a lot of content that necessarily suits what they're looking for. And kind of the idea for that is, if you can, the way I look at it, at least personally, is, okay, so if this is in my wheelhouse, in my niche, sort of, where are these content gaps, and how can I fill this void that people have with the content that they're looking for? What are your thoughts on that research tab, and have you used it at all, really? Like, to help you?
I actually don't see the content gap thing, so maybe that's gone now too. I just have.
Do you know about it?
No, because to follow up on your question, do you use it? No, and this is kind of why. So what I have access to is searches across YouTube, and basically you can search terms and basically just see what comes up. Seems like a kind of a redundant thing because I could just do that on YouTube, I guess. But then again, I guess this searches without like all the baggage of like my search history or something. But so you can kind of search and see what people typically see, and you can kind of try to see what the top searches are and maybe compete with that or whatever. You've got your viewers' searches, which sounds neat. But when you've made as many videos as I have, it's not actually super helpful. But like I've got search, like for me, you know, I do gaming content. I do video games. What do you think my top searches would be?
Right.
Number one, by the way, is basketball.
Oh.
Yeah, no, let's make sense of that. I have a very popular video that's exploded in popularity, specifically in India lately. That is a web game that I play. It's called Getaway Shootout, and it's like kind of like a 2-player. It's a 1-player versus AI or 2-player game where it's like you're kind of like a ragdoll dude trying to like score a basket on the right, or someone on the right is trying to score a basket on the left, but you're both playing like ragdoll dudes. It's a goofy game. It was funny. I probably shot this episode like 5 years ago. It's popular now, I guess. So anyway, the viewer searches can get inundated if something just becomes viral, but it's kind of otherwise unrelated. I don't make That's basketball content, and there's a limit to what I can do with this info. But it is kind of interesting. You can kind of see that. And then there's a saved tab if I wanted to save any of the searches that I've seen. So I don't really use the research tab, I'll be honest.
Well, and the funny part is the main reason why I brought that up was because of the content gap option. So I wonder if you'll get that, and if you do, I want to follow up with you on that, because I really do think if it's effective and it's accurate, I do think that's a really interesting addition that may be coming permanently. Maybe, I don't know. I have no proof on that, but to the analytics side of all this stuff. So once again, just as a little recap on that again, basically, it literally will tell you, like, based on what your people are searching for. Actually, I think that tab, at least when I had it, I don't know if it was just your viewers or just, I think it might have been just anybody, but you can type in the topic or type in whatever you want to do in the search, and then things that are related to what you typed in show what other people type in, kind of like you just said with other stuff. But then you can filter it out just for content gaps. So, like, say it's basketball, right? I type in the word basketball. Then you can see what everyone else is searching up about basketball, but if you filter it to just content gaps, maybe it'll be somebody drawing purple basketballs, which of course is going to be probably a content gap. Like, there's not going to be a lot of content out there for people drawing purple basketballs. So that's kind of what I was talking about. And I think that could really be a game changer for people maybe looking to if they're still maybe trying to find that niche a little bit.
Yeah.
Or if it's all under kind of this blanket niche and it kind of still fits under their overall topic, I think that could be a really good place to start, maybe as help for maybe where to go next if you're kind of open to trying things within your niche. So I'm surprised you don't have that. That's interesting. But yeah, that's the content gap option. I thought you'd find that interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that would be interesting. I would like to see that out of curiosity more than anything. I don't have access to it. I guess there's just no gaps that can help me. YouTube has no idea. There's nothing there.
There's no gap that can help me. Weston Hasty, 2023.
There's no gap that can save me now.
So, Weston, we're going to move on here in just a second and kind of and talk about our personal experiences with getting caught up in the numbers and maybe, and how we've navigated that over the years. But before we do that, what would you say your overall recap is? And maybe not your recap, but your kind of just your advice overall for somebody who's really kind of just getting into YouTube and looking at the analytics. What would your kind of initial advice, I guess, be? Just kind of blanket, just kind of overall.
My advice would be when you release stuff, take a look at how well it's doing across not just your views. You look at that, but not just your views. Look at what it's doing for your views, your watch time in a percentage amount, and then how long that lasts for. So if over the course of
Mhm.
3 days, if it only spiked on the first day and then flatlined, that tells you something. If it spiked on the first day because you released it and then it's got lasting power, that tells you something else. If something spikes in views but no one's watching it, like it gets a bunch of views but very little watch time, that tells you something. Vice versa as well. Look at that stuff and think about like why it might be happening. Why are people clicking off so quick? Is there a problem in the intro of the video? Like, do I have an intro, like a little splash intro that, you know, is 5 seconds long and people are clicking out before it's even over? Or do I not have a good hook? Think about these things. Look at how these stats relate to one another. Views, watch time, and the length over the course of a few days. How do these things relate to one another, and can that tell you something about what you're making?
I think that's really, really sound. Because keep in mind, too, you know, as you begin to post on a frequent basis, you can see if there's different effects that happen on certain ones, like he was just mentioning. You know, there's options in here. You can really kind of customize how you look at things in the analytics, and you can compare different videos. So, like, you can see one sort of activity happening with one video and then a different sort of activity happening with another. You can compare the two in multiple ways, and then via views, via watch time, all of that. And then you can look at the videos themselves and see, okay, I want the videos to act like this more. What did I do in this video that I didn't do in this one? Right. So you can really get into it and kind of dig in there. And I really do think, although it's possible to get a little too caught up in it, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit, in just a second, it's still a really good resource to have, and it's there at its core to really help you understand who is interested in your stuff. And I think really, if it's utilized the right way, I think it can really pay in dividends as your channel continues to grow. So that is analytics. We're going to be right back, and when we come back, we're going to compare our analytics 1-to-1 and see who's better.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
I'm
just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this will be interesting. No, but we could, if we'd like, we could throw out numbers. But really, what I wanted to do is talk about just kind of our personal experiences navigating it.
I promise you, Alex's
changed.
numbers are better than mine.
except one number, that S word.
Yeah, I've got more subscribers.
He's got more subs, but we actually did that kind of recently. Well, I guess it was almost a year ago now when we got together, when you came down to visit. We kind of talked numbers for a little bit, and that was fun. But anyway, we're going to be talking about our just experiences navigating the analytics and how our relationships with them have changed over the years, because I'm assuming yours has. I know mine definitely has. So, yeah, I guess that's going to be all. We will be right back, and we're going to be getting a little personal. Strip down personal stuff.
Taking my pants off.
Taking my pants. I mean, you might be. I know you take your pants off.
I heard you say strip down, so.
Profoundish is brought to you in part by Alex Duquette Medleys. I make theme song medleys, which is where I take a bunch of theme songs and mash them up into one bite-sized song. From Nickelodeon to Adult Swim, I cover it all. So, if you want to take a fun, nostalgic trip, search my name, Alex Duquette, on YouTube, or go to alexduquette.net.
Profoundish is brought to you in part by Magic Man Mo, a gaming YouTube channel run by me. We stream and we do variety Let's Plays. Check out a short stream compilation to see if it's something that you're going to be into. It's a lot of fun. I made it, so I know. That's Magic Man Mo on YouTube.
Jump on it. Jump on it. We back. Jump on it. Analytics. Hope you enjoyed the break.
Analytics.
We're sitting here talking about analytics. You know, the numbers. The numbers go up. Sometimes they go down. You can see graphs. And it's fun to look at the numbers, isn't it, Weston?
It can be. It depends on if you're having a good week or a bad week.
For me, since my posts are less frequent, it's really a good month or a bad month.
I guess, yeah, the default statistic is the last 28 days is what it usually shows you by default.
Right. I guess I kind of wanted to talk about here in the second segment about getting caught up in the numbers. I would like to know your take on this, like your personal take. I'll kind of just lead into it here. When obviously, as we talked about before, when we started making our stuff, the analytics were a lot less detailed than they are now. I mean, you'd get the basic things like we talked about. But I remember as that started to change and it started to develop and you could see more and more, I was really getting into it, like a lot. And to be honest, some days I still will just dig through this rabbit hole, which sometimes it's good. You want to keep up and see what's working and what's not.
Yeah.
But so I'm not saying you can't do that. But did you ever have an era of your YouTube career where you were really just almost playing to the numbers a little bit instead of playing to yourself or playing to your audience? Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, and the thing is it was in the early days, right, where the first time I started getting any kind of viewership at all, I that's what I exclusively wanted to try to do was play to the numbers. I was very bad at it, hilariously. So not only like was I potentially doing things that I didn't really want to do for myself to try to play to the numbers, I was also just really bad at playing to the numbers. So I really just kind of doubled down on not doing anything right. But yeah, no,
Sure.
Especially in the early days where you don't know what to do exactly or what will work, but you want it to work. I think that's when, and that's why we give this kind of advice, right? You're just like, I'll do anything. Just tell me the thing
Right.
that will be successful. And you're like kind of obsessing over the numbers, trying to see, oh, I got a spike in this video or something like that. I'm going to do more of that. Or, there's definitely been a time where I tried to look at the numbers and base what I was doing off of those. But also I'm just kind of a lazy person in a lot of respects where, like, if I was really in terms of like trends, if I was really on top of trends, I could have been like, I'm about the numbers, I'm about the trends, I'm going to capitalize right now while it's hot. By the time I get around to hot stuff, it's usually cold, so.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's a very similar thing in the early days. You see one thing that works just a little bit and it's so easy. Just like anything, it's a little endorphin rush, right? The little dopamine rush. Just number goes up. I happy,
I mean, for sure, we are not going to knock like the rush you get when you see big number go up.
Oh,
because, like, the last time I had a really big stream, pretty much that was just like crazy, was I was hitting Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach when it was hot. And that I had one, I don't remember what the top numbers were on it, but for what I'm used to, that was a wild stream. And it was so much fun just to see that number and then just trying to like cope with that many people in the chat all of a sudden. Big number go up can be very exciting.
I was there for big number go up for you, and that was awesome. I remember texting you, like, I think while you were streaming. You probably didn't see it till later, obviously, but it was just like, oh my God, there's like 50 plus people on your stream right now. That was so cool.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting.
It is so easy to look at those and just look at those.
Yeah.
I have fallen victim to this a handful of times in my YouTube career, where things that were really just lightning in a bottle, which I could probably more easily see now based on what I know about how all of this works. Things that were lightning in a bottle were just lightning in a bottle, but I'd look at those and go, okay, let me do this again. And it's really, once again, it's not just cut and paste for everybody. It really just kind of changed from person to person and content to content. But that really is so easy just to watch that number go up. This reminds me, this is a side story, but I did want to share this really quick because I thought people would find this interesting. You already know about this. There was one time that I did try to follow a trend, and this is before I started doing medleys as my main niche.
Yeah.
And it was fairly successful, and it was the When Mama Isn't Home. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. No, for sure.
And so if anyone doesn't remember that, When Mama Isn't Home it's a video of a dad on a trombone and his son, and they're in the kitchen, and the son is like banging on like the oven as like a drum, and they play a little ditty. And I had the idea to do like a remix of it with my roommates at the time, and we put it out there, and it took off, huge. And there's really no lesson here. I didn't take this and then do it again and fail. I wanted to share this because I thought it was funny. So that was like the biggest peak I've ever had on my channel at that point. And technically, it's still like my second or third most viewed video. And but it's all the views came from like that time. But I just remember Google reaching out to me, and they removed me from being able to receive revenue for like a year.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that did happen.
Because they said this is suspicious activity. I'm assuming it's your channel's too small for us to really do the research, but there's been some suspicious activity. You're out of the program.
Yeah, they essentially, I think what they thought is that you were botting, like hiring a bunch of bots to like swarm your video. I think they thought that that's what you were doing, and you weren't.
No, I wasn't. But it was just such a huge spike. But that's kind of a side thing. I did want to say this, and actually more in recent times, and I still struggle with this. And once again, this goes back to the thing we keep going back to, which is the frequency. I post on average once a month when I do my medleys. Or when I have my schedule set right, it is once a month. So for me, one big thing in the analytics that I like to look at, and it might be different for you because you post so much more, is how I can't think exactly what it's called, but I see it every day. It's how your most recent video is doing compared to the other last
top 10 thing. Yeah.
For me, even to this day, I can find myself looking at it just a little too much, like obsessing over it, just to see how it did compared to the last one. Now, I think it's a great tool. I really do. I think it's a great tool. However, my advice is don't be like me and just look at it every 4 minutes. I'm going to be honest with you. That would still happen from time to time when I post medleys. It's like, because at the end of the day, a lot of my medleys end up kind of leveling out and doing the same after you give it a few weeks. But for some reason, those first 48 hours, if it's a little different from another one or it's not quite as good, the reason why I'm saying try not to obsess over it is because, at least for someone with my personality type, I'll look at that and go, well, I failed. What did I do wrong? Right? When, at least that's my inherent go-to very quickly. You know, when I did one of my, it was my PBS Kids, one of my PBS Kids medleys. Can't remember. I've done like a million of them now. But it did so great. I broke 1,000 views in less than 24 hours. And that was a huge milestone for me at the time. And so I wanted to obviously continue to see that go. So as I would do more medleys, like the very next one I had such high hopes for. And then, what the heck was that? Did I hear thunder? I think we're getting some storms again.
It's
Sorry,
happening.
not again.
The rapture. The apocalypse.
Right. But anyway, I put that next video out, and what do after it's out for about an hour or two, because it takes 30 minutes, I think, for it to start like giving you results. I take a look, and it's not trending as well, because it'll tell you, if you're unfamiliar, basically in real time, by minute, how it's doing. Like, say your video's been up for 2 hours and 7 minutes. It'll show you what your last video was at.
Right, 2 hours and 7 minutes. Yeah, it will show you not just like how it compares, but how it compared when those ones were released. I think that's actually kind of really neat.
I know, I do think it's super neat. I just know for someone in my particular position, it can be kind of rough. But once again, I think if I posted content every day, it would be different. Because for you, it'd be kind of hard to keep up because you post so much anyway. Especially now that you're posting Let's Plays again and stuff. So
yeah, I have a different relationship. I've heard something similar to what you're saying from a lot of other content creators just on YouTube that I listen to, where a lot of people that post less frequently, it can be really demoralizing when it's not, top 3 or whatever. Number 1 is fun. If you're ranking number 1 out of 10, it does a little firework animation. You're like, ooh,
I love it.
I did something kind of cool. That's that dopamine rush. But since if I post something that just flops, if it's a short, because I post shorts every day. There's not always a video every day, but there's a short every day. If a short flops, whatever. There'll be one tomorrow, and that one will do fine probably. So, like, I'm looking at one right now. The one that I released today has been out for a little over 7 hours, and this one flopped hard. It's had 18 views. So it's like, it's flopped hard. Like, just something about the algorithm. No. The title is Thine Hubris. Thine and hubris are probably not very algorithmically friendly words, but it made sense for the short when I titled it. So there's, by the way, speaking of analytics, for anyone listening, titles, extremely important. I title my things whatever I feel like. This is the wrong thing to do. Title them in a way that people are going to find them. Use very common, catchy words. I'm not going to say create clickbait. Still make it related to what you're doing, but thine hubris is not going to be a very catchy title.
I'm going to jot that down because that could be another good Tiny Tuber episode. It's kind of like the SEO / metadata / titling sort of stuff. That could be a fun episode. But yeah, thine hubris, that's interesting. I'd click on it, but I don't know if a lot of people would.
I will say, like, the number one of my last 10, because I've just got the thing open up. When you hover over the ranking by views, the one I'm looking at is currently 10 out of 10. I'm not surprised. If I hover over that, I can look at what the top 10 are and how they were doing at this point in time of release. And go figure, the number one is my short called Life is Weird, Dude. That seems a lot more clickable than thine hubris. Yes. You know what I mean? So there's something you can learn from that. Even when you're like using those rankings, it can be a little bit exciting to see it go up or a little crushing to go down. But don't forget, at the end of the day, it's an analytic. It's a stat. It's a figure that you can use. It's a tool. So that's what I prefer doing. I look at it. I'm like, okay, well, how's it comparing to specific things as opposed to just what's it out of 10? Then again, I post every day, so it hurts me less if something does bad. It hurts when it's like a video that I released and put a lot of time into, and compared to other videos, it's not doing well, and you're like, oh, well, shoot, okay. But
yeah. And that's kind of the boat that I'm in, because I do put a lot of time into each video. And once again, relatively speaking, they all do, they're all kind of in the same wheelhouse. There's some exceptions. Obviously, they vary a little bit, but not too much. But I think that's just it, though. Like, before they level out, those first, couple days, I'm just looking at it. And that's still today. But you mentioned kind of like, like lessons learned. What would you say because you said earlier on, you kind of, you're really kind of looking into the numbers more and you weren't even really playing into them correctly by your own words.
Right.
What would you say, if you can maybe pinpoint it, could you kind of describe that mental shift, or like what was it for you when you did, like what happened in you or to you perhaps, where you decided, you know what, this is a tool, this isn't everything, this is just a part of creating content. What was your kind of shift? Can you kind of pinpoint that?
It started to shift for me where it's not that I completely disregard the numbers, but that it became more important to me over time to try to just listen to the comments instead. At some point in time, I realized this speaks back to my beginning with Inca Games on the channel. It's hilarious just how much of an impact me discovering those games has made on my channel. But that was a video that I thought was going to do bad when I first started playing Inca Games. I thought I was going to do bad. All right. It wasn't a game I wanted to play. So I thought the stats were going to be bad. I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it. But it came from a comment. Just one comment. It was a suggestion. Yep. I played it, and it was the most successful thing I had done up to that point. And I continued to do it in my Inca Games series of hundreds of videos, are my most successful series on the channel. Turns out, when you do finally get people talking in the comments, maybe listen to them. Maybe not every horrible critique. Maybe there are trolls. Sure. But when you have people in earnest saying, hey, actually, I like what you do, but I would like to see you do this. Maybe consider it, especially in those early days, because they might be onto something. They might be seeing something that you aren't seeing as the creator. They're the viewer. What their viewing habits might be completely alien to you as the creator, but that's the people watching your stuff. So when that hit, I'm like, okay, I'm going to worry less about the numbers and more about the comments that I'm getting now, because the comments at the time when I was smaller were like very few and rare. And at the time, the analytics weren't helping me very much because I wasn't really using them right. I really didn't know what I was doing yet. It's like, okay, I want to stop doing that because that's not working for me. It's Rando Mr. Randoson shows up in my comment section and basically just started my entire YouTube career for me on a comment. Like, maybe I'll stick to that,
Right, because once again, analytics, you kind of nailed it. Analytics are They are a tool, right? They're not the only thing that you should be looking at. It's one of many facets to the whole content creation process. It's important,
Yeah.
but it's not the only thing. Listening to comments is, I think, or at least reading them and keeping up with them, I think is not a bad idea either. Because one way I look at it is that a stat is a stat. A stat is that person who has seen every single video you've ever made, and that same exact stat also has that one schmuck who accidentally clicked on your video and then left within 2 seconds.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think, that's why I do, and why you as well put value in comments, or at least one reason, because these are people that, once again, you mentioned trolls. We're going to disregard them for a second.
Right.
But these are people that are taking the time to go to a video of yours, watch it, and then actually take the time to type something out to you. I think that's a great thing to use in tandem with analytics just for that reason alone, because that there's just more value in a comment, because you really know, like, this is once again, other than trolls and bots, this is a real person that's here, and you don't have to listen to their advice, but it doesn't hurt to keep an eye on it. And another thing I do here on the analytics is this may not work for you. Just once again, differing content. But I do. You can filter out particular words. So if I'm trying to like through your comment section,
Yeah.
because there's a comment section in your analytics, I will filter out particular words. Like I'll go, okay, what is a medley? So for example, for those of you who have been missed out on it, I make medleys of like TV show theme songs. So say like I'm trying to think of the next medley to do or something like that. I might type in a comment that I remember somebody leaving a long time or a while ago, like, do one for NBC or whatever. So then what I'll do is I'll type in NBC. So this is like kind of like, instead of doing like the research tab, this is just going to the comments tab. I'll type in NBC. Then I can see if there's a lot of people over the last couple months maybe, or weeks or whatever it is, who have commented NBC or whatever. Like, hey, do NBC. Maybe we're onto something there. These are people who, by the way, you can also see, if they make it public, you can even see if they've subscribed to you, so you know that they're not going away.
Right.
You can really see if this is going to be something fruitful for you. So that's always a great place to look too, if your content lends itself well to that, is filtering out words through comments to see if there's like trends in what people are telling you and saying, which I think is a great tool too.
Yeah, same thing here. If you start seeing multiple comments from different people suggesting trying, the same thing, it's like, all right, maybe that's worth looking into.
Right. Like people could be recommending you do an NBC medley. You never know.
If someone asks me to do an NBC medley, I'm just going to like direct them to your channel. Like, no.
Thank you.
Like, no, you're asking the wrong guy.
You know how mad I would be if somebody was like, people started to comment on your channel for some reason, like, do an NBC medley. And they're like, okay. And then you do one. I'd be so pissed. Because they're like, Weston, I'm right here, man.
Not only do I do one, but it like outperforms and blows yours out of the water. And you're like, why?
I mean, you never know. If you pull up that trombone.
I'm just so multi-talented, Alex. Why don't you just get good? I mean.
I can't get good. Just for funsies, are there any particular... are there any numbers you want to share before we go?
Are there numbers that we should share? Let's talk about money. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to talk about those.
Yeah, let's talk about our revenue. No.
Let's talk about exactly what we make and how it's probably less than you think.
Or how about let's keep... Right, exactly. I feel like so many YouTubers say that too, which, by the way, most times it's true. They're not making as much as you think. But like, I feel like the average Joe is still like, oh, all YouTubers are millionaires. It's just like the common, like, this thought of it now, which definitely is not true. There are millionaires. They exist, but they're definitely not all millionaires. Even some of the bigger ones. In
my experience, like if you, I don't know, like in my experience, if you Google like how much does so-and-so make on YouTube, just assume that is wildly blown up and based on nothing. You should probably, like, if you go to like Social Blade, which is a popular YouTube analytic site that people use, look at the estimated revenue on that one and assume that it's half of that or less.
Yeah, that's a pretty good rule of thumb, I'd say. How about this? Instead of sharing numbers, why don't we go to like lifetime?
Okay.
So to go to lifetime, and why don't we like just, you want to say maybe what like our top 5 videos are or something, just for funsies?
We could.
That's a little simpler. Maybe if you want to, you can give like the view count too if you want. But yeah, let's just do our top 5 and give it kind of a brief little explanation if you have anything of any of those. I thought that might be interesting.
Yeah. I can do that. I've got mine pulled up right now. I'm going to have a hard time being able to explain like why some of these are my top 5, but I guess 3 of them do make, actually they all make sense actually. Never mind. I'm looking at them. I'm like, you know what? Never mind. They make sense.
So what's your number 1? You're I think, I mean, you've said this, but I've forgotten. Is it, I'm assuming it's one of your, no, is it like your first Inca, like Lady Gaga?
Not quite.
Saw game, or
it's Christmas Eve is the title, and it's it's a minute-long video. It's not a short, but it's like a minute-long video that I shot as a promo to the YouTubers Saw Game 3, which is a game that the Inca Games team made. And in that game, the Pig Saw, it's a parody off Jigsaw from the horror series, kidnaps a bunch of different YouTubers, and I was one of them. And as a part of that, these YouTubers, most of the YouTubers, some of them didn't submit videos, which is kind of a bummer, but most of the YouTubers actually submitted a video that would actually be in the game, which is like how we got kidnapped video. So mine that I submitted and was a part of the game is my most viewed video at like over 80,000 views.
Okay.
For just this minute-long video. You'll note, I don't know how high all of your top 5 are going to be. I don't have crazy buku viewed numbers. I just have a ton of videos. But yeah, that's my biggest one, 80,000, and it's Christmas Eve. It's just a video of me like pretending to sit down to record a video. I drink some of my coffee. It turns out it was like spiked with somniferous, which is just a sleeping potion from the game, and I pass out and Pigsaw kidnaps me.
Nice. Okay. We'll bounce these back. We were bouncing back and forth here. So I wouldn't have guessed that one. I don't think I saw that particular video. So that's interesting, but it makes sense considering what you're all about over there.
Yeah.
So for me, do you know what my number 1? I have so many less videos, so you could probably guess what my number 1 is.
I feel like we've talked about what your number 1 is, but I forget. It can't surely still be your commercial jingles. Or is it?
Coming in at number 1 is 15 commercial jingles.
Okay, it
in
is
under
still
3
commercial
minutes.
jingles. Okay.
It's crazy because it still consistently like tracks with even new content as I put it out, even the big stuff. Like it's not a slouch at all. Retention is still high. There's still new viewerships. I'm still getting new subscribers from it. From this old video, this came out in 2013. It's got 401,801 views, and
blows my number 1 out of the water.
Once again, it's all just kind of like, it's really apples and oranges just because it's totally different stuff. But it's so weird. I mean, I've told the story in our last one about finding our niches, but I mean, this was the first medley video that I did, and it did kind of make it take off. I figured by this point something else would have surpassed it. But the thing is that unlike a lot of videos that do really well and it starts to trickle down, and then pretty soon it still gets views, but it's not as much as it did when it started. It continues. Like it doesn't slow down. Like if I looked at the specific data for this, it just continuously goes across a straight line. In terms of like viewership, for example, like over like I'm peeking here just to be sure to make sure that is right. I mean, I haven't looked at this particular video in such a long time. But it's so bizarre. People keep watching it. There doesn't seem to be, in fact, because my channel has began to grow in these last couple of years, it's really actually more of an upward curve in terms of viewership and watch time, really.
It only becomes more powerful.
I know, it's like, and the thing that I think is funny about this is that it's such a low quality video compared to like my newer stuff. Once again, we all got to start somewhere. But yeah, it's just anyway. That's my number one, and I'll be honest. In terms of numbers, it's number one by a landslide. So what's your all right? What's your number two video?
Number two, that's coming in as Chris Angel's Saw Game Part 1, an
Chris
arrow
Angel.
to the knee. And
When
that's
did you
one
put
of the
that
Inca
out?
games. That would have, I don't remember if that was the third Inca game that I played, because I actually started with Lady Gaga Saw Game. And I forget what the second one I played was, but it was probably Justin Bieber Saw Game. And then I played like Chris Angel Saw Game. Those were like three of the biggest, most suggested games that I play. Sitting at 38,000 views. This is like the third Inca game that I made in like 2013. This video is over 10 years old now. And it still gets views now because people do, like you kind of said with your video, people are discovering my channel for the first time, and I'm really into Inca games. So I've got a playlist of all my Inca games, and people like to go back to the beginning and try to like see where I came from and just how radically different it was back then to now. So it still gets views even to this day, even though it's a terrible video where you can hear my audio twice. You've got me and then a very quiet echo in the back. Like it's a bad video.
That was when you were using like that weird headset mic that I gave
That weird
you.
headset mic, yeah. No thumbnail on this video. I couldn't upload thumbnails yet, and it's part 1 because I couldn't upload longer than 11 minutes yet.
Oh, what weird times. Yep. Okay. I mean, I've specifically seen that video. I don't know if it was a little bit later or what, but I remember that. I remember that era too, the double voice Weston era. So my number two, this one's quick. This is the When Mama Isn't Home remix. So we already told that story. That one got 188,000 views. That doesn't really grow as much because that was like a flash in the pan. Or is it flash in the pan or splash in the pan?
Flash.
How's that saying go?
Flash in the pan.
Flash in the pan. Okay. I thought splash. I thought pan. You can maybe splash a little bit of olive oil in there. That could have worked. But anyway, so that doesn't grow nearly as much. So that will eventually looks like very quickly surpassed by my third one, but we'll go back. What's your third one?
This is a short, and it's my most popular short. It's from Among Us, playing with Ian and TJ, called Why Are the Towels Stiff?
Yep, I know this one.
Sitting at 34,500 views. On its way to trying to surpass my Chris Angel Saw Game. It's just my most popular short. You can imagine what it's about.
It's a funny one. So my number three is another medley, of course. Really, anything in my top 10 most viewed videos ever are all medleys, of course. But so my number three is 20 Cartoon Network theme songs in 3 minutes. This is my first Cartoon Network medley. That one got me, I remember at the time, got me a huge boost in subscribers and viewers. I remember that was a big one. That's got 179,000 views. So it's about 9,000 short from this viral video I made. So I'm looking forward to having that surpass that. So that's pretty cool.
That is
love that medley. That's a fan favorite, at least from the fans that I communicate regularly with. I know that's a really commonly listened to one. So Cartoon Network makes sense. That was just a lot of fun to make too. All right. Well, I guess we'll go to 5. Why not? This is fun. What's your number 4?
Do You Know the Way? Ugandan Knuckles Let's Play. This was a sponsored video. I was paid to play this. It was a mobile game where you play as the Ugandan Knuckles and you kind of like jump up a platform and work your way up. And it is mind-numbingly irritating because it's just got like audio of like "Do you know the way?" and a bunch of like random other sound effects playing all at the same time. It's a cacophony.
I remember
of
that.
Madness.
I do remember. At first, I thought, wait a second. Well, I was going to say there seems to be a little bit of a trend with your titling there because you're obviously that game, it makes a lot of sense. But you said like arrow to the knee, so like you're doing a lot of like meme references.
Oh, I used to do that a lot, but of course when it came to the Uganda Knuckles one, it's like, what else am I going to title it? I have to title it "Do You Know the Way?" in all caps.
Oh my goodness. My number 4 is another medley. This is a 15 PBS Kids 15 PBS Kids theme songs in 3 minutes. To this day, if I were to consider without looking at this, I would have said this would be my most popular like TV show medley, but it's second place at 163,000 views. It's my fastest growing. Last time I did a comparison of these, which was a while ago now, it seems it's growing quicker and ranking up to the top quicker, which is why I did like 4 other parts to PBS Kids, which are also, one of them is also in my top 10. Fun one. This was the one. Nope, I lied. Sorry. If it weren't for this video doing so well, I wouldn't have done part 2, which was going back, a little throwback. That's the first video I made, PBS Kids Part 2, where it broke 1,000 views in 24 hours. And once again, that was a huge milestone, and that felt really good to see that happen for that first time. So that's my number 4. What is your number 5?
Number 5, that one's actually a special one to me, just because it's not games or anything. I interview Inca Games founder Aldo Mujica. Choked on his name there. I interviewed the founder of Inca Games, and that one's sitting at just about 23,000 views as my number 5 video. Yeah, I do an interview. His first language is Spanish. Mine's English. Thank goodness he knows more English than I know Spanish, and I interview him.
I remember watching that video. That was so surreal.
Yeah.
When
did
you make that?
Yeah. That was in 2020, September.
2020. Okay, I knew it was fairly recent. That is so cool, man. You've come so far with Inca Games stuff. I mean, you're in a game, like
yeah, I'm in a game.
You've met the creator. That's crazy.
I'm technically in 3 games, but so I was in YouTuber Saw Game 3, which I mentioned earlier. I'm actually in Magic Man Mo Pig Trap, because they had to stop saying Saw Game. So it's Magic Man Mo Pig Trap. So that's a game where I'm the main character. I'm also in a side game that was made for the interview I did with Aldo that they put together. It was an Inca Games trivia game where you have to like beat different Inca Games trivia to unlock the next room, and I'm the main character in that. So that was just made for the interview.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So my final number 5, quick. It's 20 Nicktoon theme songs in 3 minutes. 152,000 views on that one. So that was a fun medley. That was, I think, the first cartoon. Like the first time I did a medley, and it wasn't like a commercial jingle medley. This was like my second or third medley I ever made. And at the time, that obviously did really well, just because it was perfect time for like people our age, kind of missing the 90s cartoons and stuff. And that came out in 2015 when I did that, and that kind of took off. So that was kind of a huge turning point for my channel too. So really, all of these are kind of very fitting, at least in my book. Like if I were to guess my top 5, 4 of these 5 were in here. I guess, would you have said the same thing for yours? Or something similar?
If I had
so many
to
more
guess my own
videos,
top
though.
5,
But if you had to guess your own top 5, would you say that this would have been pretty close to what you guessed?
I would have been pretty close. Yeah, because these have been top 5 pretty much for a long time now.
Yeah.
Getaway Shootout,
cool.
the one that we were talking about earlier, it's on its way up though. It's in the top 10.
Okay.
It's working its way up that we were talking about earlier. I'm going to be playing basketball games now on the channel.
Magic Man Mo basketball. Magic Ball Mo. Magic Basket Ball.
Magic
Mo.
Basketball.
Magic Bass. Magic Bass is just a fishing channel.
Magic Bass. It's going to be my side channel.
Listen, we'll talk about side channels another time. It is time for us to go. But first, Weston, where can people find you on the internet?
Magic Man Mo on YouTube. We've been talking about it like this entire time. Magic Man Mo on YouTube. Go to that. I've got a website, westonhasty.com. It's got all the other stuff that I do as well. Check that out. But Magic Man Mo, gaming channel, YouTube. Come join the stream and say hi. Say you saw me from Profoundish.
Sometimes, say you saw him from Profoundish. Sometimes I'm on there, too. I'll hang out and say hello, so come talk with both of us. I will lead things off the same way with my stuff. Go to YouTube. Just type in my name, Alex Duquette. Or you can literally just type in any TV show network and medley. Almost any TV. The main ones. Cartoon Network, PBS, Nickelodeon. I will come up. right there at the top. So feel free to search up. If you like Nickelodeon, type in Nickelodeon medley. You'll find me that way. I do medleys of TV show theme songs, like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon and PBS and all kinds of things. I also do a stream as well. I do a live stream on Tuesday nights called the Jam and Chat, where I do improv music based on the comments you give me. So, and sometimes Weston's there. So come say hello. Weston, take us away with your Profoundish tags.
You've been listening to Profoundish. You can listen to us wherever you're listening to us from, as well as Spotify and Apple and YouTube. Follow our socials at Profoundish Pod on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and give us a rating no matter where you're at. Likes, stars, whatever you can do comments, all of those things.
Whatever.
Leave us a comment, say hi. We've got probably a poll and or QA down below. If you're listening to this on Spotify, go give that a fancy look. And thanks for watching or listening, rather.
Thanks for watching. I giggled there because you kind of choked up for a split second.
I did.
I don't know if you just ran out of breath.
I got emotional like you do.
just leave a rating, please.
Please. No, I didn't have it. I guess I didn't have it in me today. I'm losing it.
I guess it's time for bed. Actually, no, it's not. You said you got something to do.
I got things to do, man. I can't go to bed.
Oh, the places you'll go.
I used to love that book as a kid.
It's a good one. But that's all for now. Next week, we're going to be talking about our favorite Dr. Seuss books.
Okay, so now that you said that, I might have to do that.
That might be fun. Not confirmed, but wait till next week, and it just may be. It's up to Weston because it's his turn.
It might be about children's books.
Ooh. I guess we'll see. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Profoundish. We will see you next time. Bye!